So what is the actual type of business model that you want to use to get you to the next level? And this is a really important decision that you need to make, because depending on the business model that you want to use to get you to the next revenue threshold, it will completely change the trajectory of what strategy that you deploy in order to make it effective and make it successful, okay? So the first thing is that, okay, what is the business model that I'm going to use? And there's two primary types of business models that we see most often in the online space. There's the low ticket, high volume model. So it's low ticket, high volume. The other that you can choose to take is a high ticket, low volume business model route. What I see happen as a mistake, and I'm saying this is a mistake not because like it can't work, it just is way harder and way more grueling and completely unnecessary in my opinion. The biggest mistake that I see people make is they try to do both. Hello, hello. So this episode is really all around helping you decipher and get some more clarity on what offer you should be selling next if you want to surpass the $300,000 mark in your business. So if you are a done-for-you service provider, an agency owner, maybe primarily right now, majority of your revenue is coming from a private one-on-one service, this is going to be a really great episode for you if you're at a place right now in your business where you feel like you're maybe plateaued, stuck, or maybe just hovering, and you're trying to figure out how does your business model need to evolve, adjust, or shift in order for you to sustainably create leverage within your business, surpass that 300K threshold, and really lay a solid foundation for you to build a seven-figure online business. So this episode is for you. And if that is resonating with you, sometimes when you speak in too much truth, even social media platforms are trying to hold you back from being great. And what we're not about to do is we're not going to let that stop us. So first thing is first is that when you are trying to make these decisions, one, this is actually very normal. I talk about this often in my content, but like really your business model must evolve and it needs to adjust as you start to hit these certain revenue thresholds within your business. So when you are just starting out making no money, your approach to getting sales and how you're going to get clients and how you're packaging your offer is going to look different to get you from zero to your first $100,000. And then when you cross that $100,000 threshold, normally some adjustments in your business model and your offer structure needs to happen. Usually you actually start recognizing where you need to niche down. You start getting more clarity on where you need to specialize your expertise and really reduce some of the customization within your offer delivery so that it's making it a little bit more streamlined for you operationally. And that's really the point in the threshold where you're really starting to carve out your authority and really start to define what you want to be known for when it comes to your expertise and what problem you solve. Then you're at the $100,000 mark. You think you ballin'. You realize $100,000 really ain't that much money in the real world after taxes, after business expenses, right? And you're like, okay, this ain't enough. Like I need to get to the next level. And then you start going and you start growing the business. And to get you from 100K to 300K, again, you make those adjustments and refinements. And if you're at that, maybe just under that 300K mark or right above that 300K mark, again, that's another major financial threshold where some refinement needs to take place. We take a moment to pause and recognize, where does our business model need to evolve? What operationally do we need to shift in order to position us for seven figures, right? So at all these major revenue thresholds, I actually did a full series on this. It was called the 3M series, and it was breaking down each of these major thresholds. So you can either go listen to that on my podcast at Jerisha Said or on my Instagram TVs. They're published pretty much everywhere on social. But if you want to hear more about those revenue thresholds a little bit more like in detail, there's episodes dedicated to each one of those phases. But regardless, I want to make sure that once I think we all are under the recognition or under the assumption that yes, as we hit these revenue thresholds, things need to evolve and adjust in how we approach business, how we structure our operations, how we deliver our service to our clients, and how are we structuring the business model itself. So I truly believe that this episode is going to help you start to think more critically so that you can have more confidence and certainty in your decision making, because you are going to need to do this. Maybe you're already right now in a point in business where you need to decide what is that next offer or what's the business model direction that I need to go in so that I can surpass 300K with more ease, but not just surpass that 300K, but do it in a way way that it's really laying a clean, solid foundation for me to catapult to 7, okay? So this is for you. So the first thing that you really need to think about, and if you don't have a notebook, now's a really great time to grab one, or you can just capture your key ideas in the comments to help your neighbor out as well and to really solidify down what it is that you're hearing me say. Somebody said this is exactly what I spent my entire morning thinking about. So first thing that you need to think about is, what is the actual type of business model that I'm going to use to focus on to get me to the next revenue threshold? What is the type of business model? So this episode right here is going to be for the person who's already like seeing some success in their business. They're already making money in their business. Maybe you're at that around that $100,000 mark in your business, right? You're maybe at 60K, you know that, you can put in a little bit of extra effort to cross that $100,000 mark. Or maybe for the person who is maybe doing more in revenue, but your take home is around 100K. This episode is really, really for you, okay? So what is the actual type of business model that you want to use to get you to the next level? And this is a really important decision that you need to make, because depending on the business model that you want to use to get you to the next revenue threshold, it will completely change the trajectory of what strategy that you deploy in order to make it effective and make it successful, okay? So the first thing is that, okay, what is the business model that I'm going to use? And there's two primary types of business models that we see most often in the online space. There's the low ticket, high volume model, meaning that you have offer that is less than $3,000. Normally it's that $500 to $2K price point. And in order for that price point to be effective, for you to hit your revenue goals, you have to sell it to a large number of people. It's a high volume play. So it's low ticket, high volume. That is the first route that you can take. Normally what we see with offers around a low ticket, high volume route is creating a digital course. It is possibly creating a really approachable membership where, membership's $30 a month, $50 a month, $100 a month, something like that. And because the yearly lifetime value of that customer, if they're there for 6 months or a year, is again, $500 to $2,000. So that's the first business model route you can choose to take. The other that you can choose to take is a high ticket, low volume business model route, meaning that people are paying you somewhere between $3,000 and $30,000 to work with you. And you get to work with a smaller number of people because your prices are higher. So it's a high ticket, ain't for everybody. And you're selling to a low volume of people. And what we see normally with offers that are like that, or maybe they're either like super, super customized, very niche expertise, private one-on-one services, or we see more of a high ticket group coaching program, which is the route that I took for me to surpass 7 figures. So those are two different business model routes that you can decide. What I see happen as a mistake, and I'm saying this is a mistake not because it can't work, it just is way harder and way more grueling and completely unnecessary in my opinion. The biggest mistake that I see people make is they try to do both. They're making $100,000 a year or $300,000 a year, and they try to do both in order to get them to the next level. They decide that, hey, I'm going to create a group coaching program that's high ticket, deep value, high ticket. Jay, I hear you. Pick little pieces of my coaching program apart and sell those as like $47 digital courses or $97 digital courses. And they try to serve both. Or what we see happen is that people try to create two new offers where they'll go create a digital course that's like $997 for the people who are maybe just getting started, and then they try to sell something that's maybe $5,000 in a high ticket group coaching container, or maybe a mastermind, right? Let me know if you've ever considered doing this. And I'm raising my own hand because I did this a couple years ago. I had this consideration, and let me just know, has anybody thought that this is the route they should take? I'm gonna just do both, Jay. There's people who want both. I'm getting some sales objections. I need to lower my prices, but I also know that I need to raise them. So I'm gonna just try to do both. I see somebody like a 1K course, a 10K program, a 15K mastermind. But the problem with that is twofold, is that I'm going to give you guys two different examples as to why this is an issue in the business, okay? I'm going to give you an example for one, you as the CEO, and two, an example of you of what this is doing in the marketplace when you do this. First reason why this is a mistake is, as a business owner, the strategy that you would deploy to make a low ticket, high volume offer structure work, it is radically different than what you would do if you wanted to make a high ticket, low volume offer work? Think about that for a second. I'm going to do this with cars as an example. You think about Tesla. I love Tesla. When Tesla first came out, Tesla doesn't spend any money on advertising. Like Apple, they don't spend money on advertising. Why do they do that? It's because they're appealing to a completely different demographic of person. And Ferrari, there is no advertising. Lamborghini, there is no advertising. They ain't spending no money on paid advertisements, right? Ferrari, Maybach, Rolls-Royce, McLaren's. In California right now, and literally I'm in La Jolla. You drive down Prospect Street, I feel like I'm at a car show every day. Like I'm seeing cars I have never, like a Lamborghini truck. I hear about them, in the rap songs. I ain't never seen one in the flesh. Lamborghini, you've never seen any of these car companies do not spend money on paid advertising. Yet people still will spend $90,000, $150,000, $300,000 and wait 6 to 9 months before they get their car. Porsche, none of these companies spend money on paid advertising. Majority of them don't. I don't want to misspeak. Majority of them do not spend money on paid advertising. Why? Because the way that they market and appeal to their client base is they don't need to spend money on paid advertising. They're not trying to hit them with 50 million ads to get them to believe they need to buy a $250,000 sports car. No, because the psychological buying decision criteria of somebody buying a McLaren, money isn't really the primary factor that's informing their buying decision. They deploy a very different strategy to make people aware of their offer, to align their offer with supply and demand, and to get people interested in their product. Versus, let's say that you are trying to buy a Honda Civic or a Ford Fusion, or what else have I driven before? A Chrysler 300. I feel like when the Chrysler 300 came out, they was like, y'all, this the black man's Benz. I'm like, why does the Chrysler 300 gotta be, like, why can't the Benz be the black man's Benz? But like, think about how much advertising and paid advertising was spent when the Chrysler 300 came out. I'm from Detroit too, so maybe that's why I'm using car analogies right now. I don't know that much about cars, but you guys get what I'm trying to say, right? When it's a lower ticket price point, when they're trying to sell a larger volume, there's a lot of money that has to be spent on paid advertising. There's a completely different strategy and a completely different approach in order to get people to purchase the item. So I'm using that as a very big example. Think about McDonald's, for example. How much money does McDonald's spend on advertising? You'll be driving down the highway, you see 50 million billboards, you're seeing the commercials on Hulu, you're seeing the commercials when you're watching, Real Housewives of Atlanta. They send you advertise snail mail when you move into a new house, right? When you're trying to buy McDonald's, it's a low ticket, high volume play. Versus if you're going to some 5-star luxury, high-end, elevated experience restaurant, there is no advertising that money is spent on, right? There is no paid advertising to promote that high-end, elevated 5-star restaurant. It's a completely different approach. So I'm saying that to say is that think about you guys, we are not big business. We are not billion-dollar institutions. We have not been in existence for 100 years on this planet. We only have so much capacity and so much bandwidth. So when you fundamentally understand that there are two completely different strategies that you would have to deploy from a marketing perspective, from a sales process perspective, from a client delivery perspective, and then from a back-end operation perspective, completely different strategy if you are doing a low ticket offer that you need to have a high volume of people versus if you are doing a high ticket offer where you need a low volume of people. Do you guys understand that? So the business model route that you take, you need completely different strategies that need to be deployed in order for them to be effective. And when you are making less than $1 million a year, I can guarantee you do not have the bandwidth, the cash flow, or the capacity to deploy both effectively. You don't. Why? Because normally we're solopreneurs. At best, we might have a virtual assistant on our team and maybe a program coach that's offering some support. Like we only have so many hours in a day and we only have so much energetic and mental capacity to even give. So when we start diluting our attention and trying to stretch our focus from a low ticket to a high ticket strategy, not just from in itself the actual offer, we end up just staying busy without ever effectively doing any of it, right? So how many of us have bought a program to learn how to sell with a webinar and then never did the webinar? Never launched the webinar. We bought a program to learn how to do paid ads, but then what? We never run the damn paid ads. It's too much. We buy this program to learn how to set up this super sexy, complicated email funnel strategy, and then what? You don't end up writing all the damn emails. You never actually set up the funnel, or you set up the funnel, then you keep breaking it because it's just too complex. And then you end up spending all this time. And I'm saying this from experience. I have done this. I literally spent probably $20,000 in about a solid 9 months of me trying to build a webinar funnel out that, let's just say, did it get results? Sure. Was it worth the amount of effort, energy, and attention I gave to it? Absolutely not. It resulted in 2% of my revenue last year, and it absolutely took up about 60% of my time. This is actually 2 years ago. So we do all of this stuff, right? You can't do both. I'm not saying you can't do both. You can, but it's way harder. You're going to grow significantly slower. And I think the thing that it can be really damaging on is that it can be really discouraging when you keep investing in these programs, hiring these coaches, telling yourself you're going to do these things and then you never end up doing them. It can be really discouraging to you as a business owner because it's here I am, I don't follow through on, gets you into a really negative space personally, right? So that's the first thing you have to decide. What business model am I going to use to get me to the next level? Am I doing low ticket, high volume? Or am I doing high ticket, low volume? You got to make the choice. Why? That's the fine print of being a CEO. You have to make those decisions. And part of the time, sometimes it's like I said, I spent $20,000 in 9 months 2 years ago to help solidify that was a direction I don't need to take. It was the best $20,000 that I have spent in my business because it helped give me certainty to no longer allow me to waver on whether or not that needed to be a direction I should take for the season of business that I'm in. And I'm going to keep saying that for the season of business that you are in, it's really important to recognize that different strategies make sense for you depending on what season of business you're in. When you're making $100,000 or $300,000 or whatever it is, and you're trying to get to $1 million, it's we need to focus, simplify, double down, and make sure that we have the right strategy moving us in the right direction for the season that we are in, for the capacity that we have, for the bandwidth that currently exists, right? So that's the very first question you have to make the decision on. What business model are you going to use? Because one, operationally, it's really difficult, damn near impossible to do both of those really effectively at the very beginning. Second reason why this does not work is that we want to make sure that whatever we are doing from a marketing, a messaging, and a positioning perspective, that we are remaining consistent and congruent for our audience. We want to make sure that you don't want to be trying to be all things to all people. And we want to make sure that in those stages, in your 6-figure years, you are doing the work that is establishing what your perception is in the marketplace. Those 6-figure years is really where you're establishing what you are an authority in. And we want to make sure that we are consistent and congruent with whatever that positioning is or what we want that positioning to be. So think about it like this. When you think about Kevin Hart, what is the first thing that comes to mind? First thing that you think of when you hear Kevin Hart, the name. You think of comedy. The man is a comedian. When you think of Michael Jordan, what is the very first thing that you think of when you hear the name Michael Jordan? You think of basketball. When you think of Taylor Swift, what is the very first thing that you think of? She is a singer. And the reason why we can say these individuals' names, and you say Kevin Hart, comedy, Michael Jordan, basketball, Taylor Swift, singer, they spent decades establishing themselves as an expert, as an authority, and mastering their skill set in that one particular area, right? Decades. They spent decades doing this. Before, think about Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart was a comedian for years before he became an actor, starring in movies. He was a comedian for years before he decided to come out with his own shoe line. Kevin Hart was a comedian for years before he decided to become the chocolate dropper, making mixtapes with Trey Songz. He's a comedian through and through before he branched out. He had a solid trunk before he created branches on his tree. Michael Jordan is a basketball player through and through before he made the partnership with Nike and made the Jays. Michael Jordan was a basketball player through and through before he tried out baseball for a season, before he playing golf. Michael Jordan, he had a solid trunk to his tree. And that is really important that we're doing that in our business, is that what are you known for? If you are not known for anything, it's probably because you're throwing out too many mixed messages to your audience in your content. They don't know what to know you for. They're like, well, I think she helps people with business, but that's a really vague thing. Help people how? When people say Jerisha Hawk, they know that I focus on high-end sales. They know that I specialize in sales. They know the way in which I help businesses grow is 1, high ticket, and 2, high group coaching programs. I'm known for not only the result that I deliver, but the vehicle of transformation that I do it through. My husband will be joking around me at times. He's like, Jay, do people ever ask you for discounts? I said, absolutely not. Why? Because my audience knows that we don't do discounts. We don't do discounts around here. There may be some complimentary add-ons, but we never do discounts. You will never see me have a discount on a coaching program or anything like that. I never use false scarcity tactics of like, buy now and get my program's 50% off if you buy by Friday. We're like, Heffa, your program always 50% off. This is not like Kohl's or Macy's where there's always a discount. No, we don't do that around these parts. It's really important that people ask, well, Jay, how have you been able to do it so quickly? Like my business we're 4 years old. We're only 4 years old. And it's like, how have you established defined authority and expertise in such a short period of time? It's because I was willing to commit to an angle of positioning in my marketplace, normally faster and more consistent than most of my peers do it. So it's really important that you establish the trunk of your tree before you start to try to branch out. And when you try to branch out too soon, when your trunk is not strong enough to actually sustain and hold the weight of the pressure of these branches that you create, the whole tree will crumble. You guys get what I'm saying? So I'm saying that to say is that when you are in a position where you're doing maybe $100,000 a year, $300,000 a year, and you're trying to figure out what you need to sell next, and you try to create a low ticket course and also create a high ticket coaching program, you are immediately creating confusion in your marketplace because people don't know what to perceive you as. Is she luxury and high end, or is she low ticket and accessible? Is she like an expert that's super niche, or is she generic and super vague? And it's not to say that one's worse than another. You know, is she for the entry level person that's just getting started? Or is she for the person that's already established and like has their bearings and is looking to go from running to learning how to sprint? You just need to decide what end of the token you want to be on, but you can't be both. Like Ferrari ain't trying to also create an accessible option. Like they just don't. They do hand stitch. They custom create every vehicle that they sell. That's just what it is. There's ain't no shade on nobody who can't afford the Ferrari. It just ain't for everybody, right? So I think it's really important that you just need to decide what end of the token are you going to be on, so that when you can do that, one, you can start to really design and craft the positioning in your audience's mind of what they need to perceive you as. The way that which I perceive this, or the way that we've positioned ourselves, is that we are the country club of the coaching industry. The clients that we work with, we are helping them get to become the top 2% of income earners in the world. I'm owning that. I am claiming that. I am making that known in public. It ain't for everybody. That's why there's an application process to get in. It's not just about how much money you got. You have to make sure that you're a right culture fit, that we really are properly qualifying to ensure that we are only letting people in that we know that we can get results for, and we're only letting people in that align with the philosophy and the culture of our community. So my paid programs, they are not cheap. All of my paid programs are like high 5-figure investments to work with us. And I'm okay with that. We're the country club of the coaching industry. Like if you work with us, you want to work with us because you want to be in the top 2% of income earners in the world. If you want to make more than $500,000 a year, guess what? You're in the top echelon of income earners globally. That's what my paid programs are for. But guess what? My free content is the church. I could easily be charging for every single free live stream that I put out based off of how much value is included in it. But I don't. Why? Because I'm not trying to pick up every penny off the floor. I ain't trying to get every dollar. I'm only just trying to get the dollars from the individuals that my paid programs are designed for. But my free content is my church. It's the free come one, come all. Every now and again, we'll have the badge option on my Instagram stories. You can totally add to the offer plate and do some donations. We're here for it, but you don't have to. And that's what it is, right? It took me some time, though. It took me 3 years to really claim that in my marketing. And this is a huge part of our process, is really helping our clients really learn the strategies to define their authority and properly message and convey that through their marketing. We give them those processes to do that. But it's really important that you first have to decide, like, what business model route do I want to take, and which arena do I want to be playing in for me to surpass 300K and build the foundation for my 7-figure business. It's just a choice. Do I want to go low ticket, high volume, or do I want to go high ticket, low volume? So that is like the big question, or the big answer that you have to decide. Because then once you make that decision, then you can start making better investments for your business, an investment that you know will actually reap a reward. Because it's like, if you say, I want to go build a low ticket digital course, like I would tell you, go buy Amy Porterfield's program and learn how to grow an email list, learn how to do webinars, learn how to run paid advertising, because that's what's required if you want to play high volume, right? and just got done doing an interview with Amy Porterfield. If you haven't listened to that episode, definitely go do it over on her podcast. It was really good. But if you're like, no, Jay, I want to go high ticket, low volume. I'm really good at high ticket sales. Like, I would rather be working with a smaller number of clients, but going much deeper and more in depth. I want my clients to actually value the results that they get with me. And I want them to value the experience that they have with me. Like, know that people value things differently based off of what they pay for it. How many of us have bought a program that was $900 or $500 and you never opened it? You never completed it. You never implemented it. Why? Because like, it wasn't a big enough investment. You know, when you pay attention. If you drop $15,000 or $30,000 on something, guess what? You're gonna show up. Not just because of the price, but like, well, I know for me, if I spend $30,000 on something, bruh, I'm coming to every call. I'm reading every post in the group. I'm responding on every question. You gonna know who I am if I spend $30,000 to be in a program. Sis, best and believe you will hear from me, because I want to get the absolute, like, it makes me show up differently when I invest at a higher dollar amount. But also think about it like this, when you're also trying to make this decision of which route to take, think about what promise are you actually guaranteeing with your program? What promise are you delivering? And this is really important, because if the promise that you are delivering is not correlated and in alignment with your price point, you are creating confusion for your prospects. If your program promise does not align with the price point, like that's not reflective of the price point, you are definitely creating confusion for your prospects. And this is what I mean. If you, let's say you are selling a Chanel bag. Okay, I do not own a Chanel bag. One day, I don't know, maybe I'll get one for a gift or something. But like a Chanel bag, at minimum, you're going to spend like $5,000. And that's like one of them little cute little coin bags. But if somebody's selling a Chanel bag and it's like, hey, I'll give you the Chanel bag for $300. What are you going to do? Be like, bro, that's fake. How are you going to sell me an authentic quilted Chanel bag with the gold chain for $300? Girl, you can't even buy like the little Chanel C brooch for $300. Like, I absolutely know if you try to sell me that type of purse, it's fake if it's $300. And what happens if you are defining your program and saying that your program is delivering a significant promise, a big promise with leverage? We're going to teach you how to surpass the multi-six-figure mark in our program. That is a big promise. If I were selling that program for $200, the promise that I'm delivering would not be in alignment with what the price point is. People are not dumb. We are in a day and age where like, you guys can't just worry about market saturation. You have got to factor in market sophistication. People are not stupid. So if you try to sell somebody a Chanel bag for $300, they're going to look at you like you crazy, because they know for a fact that it can't be real. Why? Even if they've never owned a Chanel bag a day in their life, they've never purchased a Chanel bag before, guess what? They know the value of what that product is. If you're not selling me that purse for at least a couple $1,000s, I know that it's not authentic. And if I know that it's not authentic, I don't care how cheap you're giving it to me. I don't want it because it's fake. It is fake. So if you are telling me that you are going to help somebody make $200,000 in their business, set them up operationally to make $1 million, help them overcome infidelity in their marriage so they don't have to get a divorce. Think about how much divorce costs. It ain't cheap. That's a very big return on investment, a huge result. Think about the promise that you are delivering, right? If you are telling people that you're giving them this big old promise, but you got this little cheap price point on it, listen, you can't do both, boo. You ain't gonna fool me. Ain't about to chump me into giving you my couple $100. It's a waste of time. Now you're actually damaging your authority. You are damaging your credibility, and you are tarnishing your perception, because now you're positioning yourself as somebody who's promising all this stuff at an unbelievable price point. So they think that now you're fraudulent. There's no way, like, what is she doing? So sometimes those are the three major reasons as to why it's so important for you to define what business model you want to use to get to the next level. Because one, operationally, from a business owner, from a capacity perspective, you only have enough energy, bandwidth, effort, focal capacity to do one. You need to pick one. Secondarily is that we want to make sure that our messaging and our marketing aligns with how buyers are making decisions. And when somebody is making a decision to invest in something that is a 5-figure or a high 4-figure price point, it is completely different psychological beliefs and thought patterns that they are using versus when they're buying something at a lower ticket price point. It's very different criteria. If you were about to go buy, I don't even know, like something that was $1,000, the thought patterns that you're going to have, the questions that you're going to ask yourself to help you make a decision are completely different than if you were going to buy something that was $100,000. So we want to make sure that is your marketing and is your messaging actually aligning with how buyers are making decisions. This is imperative if you want to have long-term success. And then thirdly, we want to make sure that your program promise actually aligns with the price point that you're selling at. If you are an expert and like, this is not the time to be like, oh, I don't want to be conceited. Well, let me be humble. Listen, if you know your stuff, like if you have been crafting your expertise, like you are the person at your job, everybody calls you to come save the day. When somebody needs help, what does she have to say? What does Christina have to say? What does Sharon have to say? They always going to you for the solution. You are seen as the authority or the problem solver in your workspace. If you have 5 years, 10 years, 15 years of experience in something, and that is what you are packaging into a service, you have expertise. So like you want to make sure that, and you already have established and developed a perception around your expertise, whether you know it or not. So you want to make sure that your prices are reflective of the promise that you are delivering. And you want to make sure that those things are in alignment with the expertise that you have and the value that you know that you're delivering. And again, when we are out of alignment in that, we actually hurt our credibility and we damage the perception that other people have of us, because it's just like selling a Chanel bag for $300. It ain't real. Like, why is she out here trying to sell me something fake? Like, no. And then if somebody does buy it, what ends up happening? They are freaking headaches of clients. They want everything up under the sun, but don't want to do none of the work. And it's like, boo, it don't work that way. It don't work that way. So I really hope that this episode was super informative for you. And if nothing else, it just helped give you some more criteria that you can be using to confidently make the decision of which business model route you need to be taking. Not just have like momentary success, but have that sustainable long-term success. And when we start to put these things in place, you'll start to see your revenue skyrocket because it has a compound effect over time. The more that you do your job of really laying the foundation and leaning into your expertise and aligning that with your messaging and aligning that with your marketing and aligning that with your offer and aligning that with your price point, what happens? Click, 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 click. You know, it's like the little Mario game when you like jump up and hit the little coin thing and it's like all the coins just shoot out, or that's Sonic the Hedgehog. I don't know. But you know what I mean? So we want to make sure that we are doing that and all of that. So y'all, I really hope this was great. If this episode was informative for you, please, I have one ask. Screenshot you listening to this right now. I'm going to post because I don't want no little like crazy, I hate when like, you know, the screenshots are like totally ugly. So let's just try doing some good ones. So screenshot right now. Yes. Hey. Oh my gosh. This was so good. All right. Screenshot you listening to this and just tag me on your Instagram stories. I'm at Jerisha Hoff. And just let me know what your top takeaway was. Let me know what business model route are you going to focus on next. Just let me know so we can continue the dialogue. But just thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate you being here. Share this with a friend. Tag your business bestie in the comments. Share the wealth, because listen, this episode alone will save you thousands of dollars, because it will save you thousands of dollars not investing in things that you don't need to be in. When we can make this decision and have confidence behind this decision and remain consistent behind this decision, we will save ourselves thousands of dollars, because now, and so much time and effort and energy and confidence, because now we know that we can be moving down a direction that's aligned with our expertise and aligned with the way in which we want to grow our business. So thank me later, because I know I didn't save somebody here some coins, helping them make this decision before they spend money on the next investment. So just thank y'all for tuning in. I love you guys much, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye, y'all. If you liked the video you just watched, click this one. You might like it even more. Go ahead, check it out.